Hi, I'm Tim Casemage, co-founder of InfraView Recruitment. Welcome to the first edition of InfraViewing, our dedicated platform for sharing thoughts and insights in the cloud and IT infrastructure sector within the MSP IT solution provider space. Today, I'm joined by Martin Ingham from Lima, an award-winning IT consultancy services and managed service provider, and also Gaut from CDW, who provide consulting, cloud and integrated technology solutions, and Ashley Ward of M247, who bring together services, innovation and technology partnerships within the digital economy. Welcome everyone. First of all, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy diaries to be part of InfraViewing. Certainly from my perspective and Team InfraView, we're super excited. Today, we are going to discuss remote versus physical, the future of working life. We are going to talk about the way that working life has and will continue to change for our industry and our sector post-pandemic. So there's a few questions that I'm going to sort of throw out there and then sort of, direct at each and every one of you, hopefully. Will we continue to see more utilization of technology? Will more businesses embrace technology for the first time? So guys, I'd like to start by asking you all, as we are technology and cloud infrastructure specialists, are we ready for the demands and changes this will bring? So I'd like to throw that out, and Martin, if I can start with you, if you've got any thoughts and insights on that. Happy to recap the questions if need be.
It was quite a long question, Tim, but I'll kind of open the conversation. I think the straightforward answer is yes, absolutely. We expect our customers and the wider market to accelerate their consumption of technology as they adapt to the new way of working, and that comes from our own insight as a business and the change that we've gone through as an organisation, but also our customer base as well. So I think absolutely it will change forever. I think from here on in.
Brilliant. And Graham?
Yeah, so as said there, I think without a doubt, I mean, there's been obviously a huge shift to work from home. Technology has made that possible. It's been absolutely essential in that transition. I mean, last year we saw a massive increase in laptop and peripheral sales, corresponding increase in the use of Citrix, remote networking, and really all the security software and hardware that sits behind that, and compliance tooling that really makes all of that possible. Companies are, even those that didn't have those remote access technologies before, I mean, they've at least stood up some temporary solutions, many to meet those new demands, because we saw an immediate shift. It wasn't even a gradual shift, an immediate shift to remote working, and I think on the back of that, I mean, companies have accelerated change, have adopted new change, have adopted digital technologies at speeds that they probably thought unheard of prior to that. So I think there's been in terms of utilization of technology, I think there's been a massive shift. It's interesting to know. I mean, certainly in terms of digitization, I mean, it's not just the customer edge that we're seeing a shift on, and certainly within CDW, we're also looking at accelerating digital platforms internally as well. So both in the back office, supply chains, production, so everything end to end. It's not just seeing a seismic shift at the front end. We're actually seeing that ripple effect at the back end as well.
Fantastic. And Ash, thoughts on
I think,
embracing change?
Yeah, 100%. I think, here at M247, we recognise that through our sort of product portfolio and services that we have on offer. I think, we're privileged. We're all privileged to be living in a time where technology can and will continue to assist us to, live and operate in our day-to-day activities. For me, I think, the businesses that haven't embraced the technology change will be forced to. And we need to ensure that these types of organisations in technology play a pivotal role.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like at the moment we've all had to embrace change, but actually now we've adapted and adopted to the positive side of what we were forced to do, utilising the technology that is all around us anyway. But I think the advancements of that technology has allowed us to, adapt really easily and speed up, whether it be internal process or externally with our customers. That first question, when I mentioned, will we continue to see utilization of technology? So we've answered that as yes. What type of technology are we looking to use to enhance that? Or is that just too open? Is there anything in particular right now that you guys have done differently over the last 6 months that you've had to do to adapt to change speed and separate yourselves from the crowd and continue to be profitable?
I think what we're seeing here at Lima, Tim, is building on what Graham was saying, that we saw a mad rush in kind of March, April last year, where our entire customer base was swamping us with hardware requests and basic, at that time, relatively basic things around Teams and Citrix and remote desktop connectivity, all those kind of things, which was great for us in kind of that first couple of months when the rest of the economy was tanking. We were doing really, really well. But I think what we've seen really in the last 6 to 9 months is customers have kind of stabilized in terms of some of those ways of working, and those sometimes those ways of working aren't necessarily the right way. They've kind of rushed into certain things. Okay. And so we're seeing a lot more engagement now around kind of going back and retrofitting some of those standards and compliance and security and even connectivity, and kind of revisiting some of those rush decisions and making sure that those things are in place. But we've seen a surge really in terms of public cloud consumption, taking those initial technologies that they were using last year and expanding those capabilities, particularly in the public cloud space. For us, it's primarily around Azure, but I'm sure there's others that are in other public clouds. And seeing really, I wouldn't say a decline, but certainly what the market's been saying for years and years around cloud is the future, cloud is this, that, and everything else. And actually now it's coming to fruition. I think that's what we're seeing with our customers, even those customers that were quite risk averse, particularly our legal customers, are looking to embrace those kinds of technologies. Even our public sector customers, people in the NHS, all those kind of organisations, are very much trying to get on the front foot and are actually moving forward in terms of some of the more sophisticated technology around artificial intelligence and analytics, business intelligence, all those kind of things that you can kind of start to build on in public cloud. We're starting to see more and more kind of requests and need for those services.
Yeah, I think Martin's right there in terms of the artificial intelligence piece. I think we're going to see a rise in adoption of that, pretty swiftly.
Fantastic. And do we think that that's come off the back of being forced to embrace technology and change the way we work because of, lockdown, pandemic, the way of working life now and what that looks like in the future? Or is it just from a customer demand as technology changes? Was that going to happen anyway, or has it sped that up?
No, I mean, I think, Tim, I think it was happening anyway. It's just that what we've seen, and certainly if you look at the sort of the McKinseys and the Forresters of the world, basically we've had in 12 months a quantum leap in digital adoption, and what they're estimating is it's anywhere between 7 and 10 years acceleration. So we've seen 7 and 10 years, 7 to 10 years of growth or enhancement in that digital adoption in just a 12-month period. So I think all these things were happening anyway and would have happened anyway, but needs must. And we ended up with a situation where we had the pandemic. We had to have a seismic shift. That shift was not just in individual businesses. It was right across the world, across all businesses.
I think what we've seen, and whether this is echoed with the guys at CDW and M247, is that the space that we were playing in and still are to a degree. If you kind of go back maybe 2-3 years, it tended to be large enterprise that were embracing these technologies, and some of those niche organizations that were either self-starting or kind of bleeding edge in terms of their adoption of technology and had some more freedom, I think, in terms of their ability to adopt those. What we seen and what we predicted, and we didn't know COVID was coming kind of 2 years ago, is that would naturally bleed down into the SME space where we predominantly operate. And what we've seen is that's like, it's been supercharged. It really has been supercharged. And what Graham was saying around that kind of 7 to 10 year growth in 1 year, I would definitely echo that. And I think what we've seen within our SME customers is that some of them were already adopting elements of the jigsaw that would let them embrace these technologies, whether that be getting their security in order, connectivity, platform, applications. But what we've seen in the last year really is all of those things come together, and our customers trying to do all of those things in a really short space of time. And the point I was making earlier around some of those customers kind of had to jump in March, April last year and didn't have all of those things in place. It worked for them for a couple of months, but then they started to have some pain, and now we're seeing a lot of opportunity and business in kind of bringing those pieces together. So there's a coherent strategy for all those customers.
Brilliant, brilliant. And we've got Graham back now, and I think we've lost Ash. the world we live in, the joys of technology. Guys, look, from my notes there, shift, adoption, change, embrace, and it seems like, yeah, certainly from Lima, CDW's perspective, that's been absolutely the case. And, we've taken the opportunity to take advantage of, what can be done and, shift, adopt, change, and drive that forward and scale up. So guys, look, there's some really insightful stuff there. And, it's really refreshing to hear such positivity out of, if you like, a global pandemic, and we are still very much in that, but we've come out the other side stronger, and we've utilized the technology, we've embraced the change, and we've adopted to what is already there, but we've enabled us to enhance and make that good, if you like, which is great. Guys, look, what I'd like to do is move on and discuss, our second part, if you like, whether you think the traditional office environments is the thing of the past, and has the last 14 months fundamentally sort of changed how and where we work. Again, two questions in one there, but to throw that out there, looking at more from a traditional office environment, given the last 14 months, has it completely changed how and where we work now?
I think absolutely yes. I think the key measure of that, Tim, will be what happens on the kind of post the 21st of June, if that goes ahead. Once all those restrictions are lifted, I think obviously there's still some restrictions in place, so people are kind of forced into still operating in this hybrid model. I think for us, both personally and with our customers, we absolutely expect a shift. Whether it will be as dramatic as everybody's expecting, I think the jury's out from us a little bit on that. I think we will absolutely see, in terms of our organisation, a reduction in face-to-face contact with customers. I think there'll be a decline in business travel, in that direct customer engagement, in certain situations, which has positives and negatives associated with it. But I think it allows us and our customers different opportunities. If we adopt that hybrid model, it allows us, for example, to grow more. It has an impact on our costs. It allows us to scale the organisation in a different way that maybe we hadn't before. And there's no reason why our customers aren't in the same situation. I think it's difficult with certain sectors. So maybe healthcare is probably one that I think will still be quite traditional. I don't think there'll be a major change in that space. But I think certainly our more corporate customers, those that are city centre focused, I think it will absolutely change. And I think what we're seeing is, whether that's through the way that we're recruiting, whether our own staff talking to customers, employees expect it. Employees absolutely expect this change to happen. And I don't think, I can't remember what it was you, Tim, or you, Graham, that said something about putting the genie back in the bottle. I don't think you can. I don't think you can put that back now. And I think people are demanding that way of working. I think there's been a load of positives in the last 18 months with that. And I don't think people want to give those up. And I think organisations have proven, the majority of them have proven that it's workable, it can be sustained, and that you can operate in that environment. So what's the justification for going fully back to a full-time office-based environment? I'm not sure it will happen.
I mean, echoing everything Martin just said, I absolutely agree with everything there. I mean, it's fair to say that I think the buzzword really for all this is going to be, we need flexibility. I think organisations have actually seen that in the majority of cases, the vast majority of cases, that remote working works. It's one of those things that most organisations, certainly managerially, everybody was certainly reticent of, frightened of, whether people could keep the same level of motivation, of efficiency, of effectiveness in a remote environment. And I think without a doubt, I think we've absolutely seen that people can self-motivate. They can deliver as effectively at home as they do in the office. I think there are some roles that absolutely naturally have to be done in the office. I think I do have some concerns around how we train new recruits. Things like that are absolutely more effectively done face to face. Things like the water cooler chats and things like that. I think there are some things that do happen in the office that you absolutely need to occur, because they're naturally more difficult in a remote environment. So I think there are some things like that where you do need some sort of base, and I think there was a shift anyway away from sort of large open offices where everybody had to come into the office every day, and we literally we're in the process of opening a new office in London, CDW, last year. Obviously that's been put on hold, and one of the things that we were looking at is the office now, I think, is more about social spaces. It's about meeting environment. It's about promoting collaboration. It's less about having your own little desk and cubicle and just sit down there, work 9 to 5 and disappear. It's a much more flexible and flexible environment where you go to collaborate, come away. And I think it's basically where work best fits and suits. And if that's at home, that's at home. If it's in an office, in an office. So I think that change was happening. I think that now I think everybody's seen that actually we don't need large expensive offices. We don't need to get everybody into work to have an effective environment. So there are some definite shifts. And one of the things, for example, we were looking at fitting out the new office with terminals. Those have all disappeared now. The whole company's got laptops, and that's all been replaced with docking stations. So the idea is, if you need to work in the office, you use your laptop, you use your docking station. If you don't, you take it home and work at home. So I think that flexibility is absolutely inherent, and I don't think there'll be a shift to all office or all work from home. I think there'll be some natural gravity to a 3-2 or a 2-3 or a 1-4 or whatever happens to be split, whatever suits you, your role, and your organisation. It really does depend on the culture, but those leaders who are saying, no, we have to be in the office, we have to get everybody back, that's the only way it'll work. I'll be honest, I seriously question how their recruitment retention policies are going to be going into the future, because I think people are going to demand these things, exactly as Martin said. We're in a situation now where people expect this as a way of working. There's a huge upside for co-workers, whether it's commute or work-life balance, but actually there's a huge upside for employers in terms of reduced office costs, and making more, actually utilising space for a greater number of people. I think the only thing I would say, and I think that this is probably where and again, it may be a differentiator for organisations going forward, but mental health concerns me, physical health concerns me, particularly when it's all working from home, and I think not just in terms of office and office environments. I think all the things that then go along that in terms of culture and community and how we shape the environment for employees going forward, I think is going to be vitally important to make sure that we're looking after the well-being of individuals wherever they may they may want to or wish to work.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that, Graham. I think for us, we went from, like everybody, we weren't necessarily the most flexible in terms of our remote working policies up until the pandemic, and it forced us into a seismic shift. And again, we kind of ripped the plaster off around that, and it's proven that we can do it. And it was great. I mean, even for me personally, I've been here for 10 years and I've done the commute. It was 3-hour commute some days. It was horrendous, but I've done it for 10 years. And I'm still here. So there must be something good about my role, but I've done that commute. The people that work here, and I'd echo it in our customers as well, go through similar pains. And I think not having to do that was really, it was liberating. It was everything from being able to pick my kids up from school when they eventually did return to school, to being able to just go and sit and have a meal with my kids straight away after the end of the day. I didn't miss out on that. And it was the same for all of our people here at Lima. But what we found is, as we kind of progressed through that, the kind of honeymoon period waned a little bit, and we started to see some issues around mental health and physical well-being. We did see those issues with our staff, and we had to change and put things in place to support them. We couldn't bring them into the office. It was difficult doing that remotely. And I think the other thing that we noticed as well is that it was difficult to maintain identity and culture of the organization that we were going through, and we still are going through a lot of change anyway. We're accelerating our growth, we're diversifying our capabilities, all those kind of things, and who we are as a business was difficult to maintain. I think when you're in a pure remote environment, and you talked about it, Graham, where how you mentor and train and onboard staff into the business, it's completely different when you're doing it over a video call as it is to being able to read social cues or just body language when you're speaking to people. And being able to have the water cooler conversations. I mean, I came back into the office 6 weeks ago, and we're kind of a couple of days in now, each week. And I quickly found that I was able to have, it was more around the cross-department conversations, and the role that I'm in requires me to interact a lot across the business, and being able to have those cross-department conversations. And it wouldn't even be things that you think, oh, I'll just dial them over Teams or whatever. You just naturally, you're making a brew and you're having a conversation about an important topic for that person, and it moves things forward. And it's really difficult to do that from a remote environment. And it might be that as organizations mature and start to shift fundamentally their cultures, that become more natural and easy to do that remotely. But I think what we found at the moment is it's a little bit of a challenge in terms of doing that. So we see the need for that reason to have some presence in the office some of the time. But you're right, it's all about flexibility, and it's not one size fits all either. So it's not about mandating to all departments this is what it should be. It's about letting people make the right decisions, be informed, and providing people with responsibility and accountability for their roles as well. Absolutely. Making sure that people understand what's expected of them, we support them, and that we manage those situations where maybe it's not quite working out, and that should be on an individual basis, not as a company-wide stance. Yeah,
do you know what? Absolutely. I mean, there's some really good points there, and to summarise that, flexibility, balance. Don't be too rigid. And, for me, speaking to many customers, and certainly from InfraView's perspective internally, if you get the culture right and you offer the flexibility and the work-life balance, that creates, a healthy environment. It means that we are looking at, the well-being and welfare of our staff, and that just creates a better, more flexible work-life balance. I think, we can't say one hat fits all. We can't be too rigid. I don't think we should have been that way before the pandemic, if I'm honest. I think that was proving very difficult before we were hit, by, the situation we were sort of 14, 18 months ago. I totally agree in terms of that collaborating, getting to the office, having a coffee, having lunch, just having a catch up face to face, just generally, you can't always do that over Teams. So yeah, balance, flexibility, culture, work-life balance, well-being, mental health. I think that all falls into, from being at the top of the business and making sure that you promote a purpose. And what I finish off by saying is, well, when you're going into the office, have a purpose. What's the point in just sitting there to be a face, to be a number, just to say, check us out, we've got a full office. Any business that's doing that right now, you are going to fall short. Like you said, Graham, any business is going to struggle if they stick to it's 5 days a week in the office, we're not flexible. I think if you hire the right people with the right attitude that appreciate the importance of being in the office when required, the flexibility and the work-life balance will just naturally come, and everyone's bought into. But guys, Really, really great points there. Finally, coming to the last section, we're sort of definitely going over the 30 minutes, but that's cool. Let me finish by asking how recruitment needs, how recruitment needs to change given everything that we've discussed, and what you guys would expect or what you see happening when dealing with a specialist recruiter. So is there anything in particular you guys feel that has to change based on everything that we discussed from a recruitment perspective?
I think whether this is a change, and I'm not sure, but I think what's really, really important for us when we're working with a recruitment partner is that partner understands the culture of the organisation, and as our culture changes. Apologies, our sandwich fan is arriving and beeping its horn. It'll do it a few more times in a minute.
No worries.
The joys of being in the office.
Absolutely.
But I think working with a partner that understands where we're going, what our changes are. We're going through rapid change, and being able to understand and articulate that to potential candidates, because we're quite focused in what we want. We understand what works well, what doesn't work well in terms of the people that work for us, and making sure that partner can convey that to the candidate is important. And I think that the second thing, I think the way that generally we go through that process has changed. I think we've had to employ a huge number of staff remotely. I mean, prior to lockdown, the interview process was really, really important. Being able to see people face to face, you get a feel for what that person's like when you're in a room with them, and it's really difficult actually to get that from a video interview or a Teams call or a Zoom call or whatever it might be. And so ways that could, I'm not really sure how you do, but ways that can kind of bridge that gap where you can't get that face-to-face contact, I think, and whether that's through different ways of profiling that person, the kind of pre-screening process. I know that you guys you've launched some new services recently around kind of video screening, and we've sampled that, and it was actually very, very good in terms of the sample that we worked with you on. So those kind of things I think are part of it, maybe part of the last question really around you guys needing to adapt and recruitment partners needing to adapt to the new world the same way that we're having to adapt from a technology point of view.
Absolutely. I think we're talking about adoption, shift and change. And if the recruitment company, or the recruitment specialist doesn't do exactly that and put that in process and part of their process when looking to source, attract, and at times entice, because, passive candidates out there in the market, as we know, can be some of the best. They don't realize they're looking until you put an opportunity in front of them. So, if that agency isn't adapting to change and, looking to, look at other areas where we can, replace face-to-face, certainly the initial stages. And Graham, we're coming to, probably a couple of minutes left, but what do you want to see happening? What would you like to see happening from a recruiter?
I think to be fair, and hey, this is why we've used and continue to use InfraView. You already do many of the things that to be honest, a lot of the other recruiters are just waking up to. So in terms of understanding the organisation, the culture, how we fit, the exact requirement, you already do those things exceptionally well. I think the thing for me, which is going to be that's all right. You're welcome. I think the thing for me that's interesting for me is certainly historically, it's always been about what the customer wants, what the job is, how it fits, what the culture you've got to fit into. And I think this is where things are going to change or have to change. Actually, I think going forward, we've almost woken this sleeping giant of actually people realise that actually it's not just about what the companies want; it's what they want. What do they want? What organisation are they looking for? So it's maybe understanding more about the candidates, their motivations, exactly what they're looking for, what sort of organisation they're looking to fit into, what sort of work-life balance they're looking for, whether they want to work from home or not, whether the social side of an organisation is important, whether things like mental and physical health are supported in an organisation. So it's more than just the job. It's actually what fits around the job, because it's not, for me, recruitment is not just about bringing someone in, it's about keeping them for the long term, and the only way you're going to keep someone for the long term is if you make sure that that relationship between future employee and employer is extremely close and symbiotic, and the only way you're going to get that is if you understand those motivations right from the off. So I think understanding more about the individual, what they fit and what they want, I think will mean that we get a better fit recruitment going forward. So that for me, I think, is the change from where we have been to where I think we are now, because we've awoken this. Well, actually, I want to work from home. I want to do it this way. I want to work in that way. Actually, these things have to be catered for, and if we don't, we'll just see a massive churn in individuals and people going through, and no organisation wants that.
Absolutely. I mean, I couldn't sum that up any better. I think we've all agreed and discussed it's not about bums on seats anymore, given the world we live in. So it's even more important for that agency to not necessarily now just work with that company, but partner. As far as InfraView's concerns are, it's about working with the client, so effectively representing them and going into battle and trying to unearth opportunities that will create and benefit every party, opposed to just saying, can we make a placement? So guys, that does bring us to the end. I'd like to say thank you so much. Some amazing insights there. I'm sure all of you that are watching are as interested as we have been throughout, and very keen to see what's new and advanced within our industry, changing on a regular basis, and if we do return to the normal and what that normal actually is. So I'm going to finish off by saying thanks so much, Martin. Thank you, Graham. Unfortunately, Ash had to drop off, but I really look forward to seeing you all again, and hopefully being part of our next episode. Guys, thanks so much.
No problem. You're welcome.
That's all right. Thank you.
Cheers all. Bye-bye.
Cheers.